There are around 200 countries in the world. But what if they were all just one country? The largest country by area is Russia, which stretches from Eastern Europe to the easternmost reaches of Asia. If you include the independent city of Vatican City, then the smallest country by area is Monaco, which is only 2 kilometers squared. But what if these countries merged into one giant country? What would this new country look like? How would it compare to the others? Would it even be the most powerful country in the world? Let's find out. We'll start with the basics: name, flag, and population. The name will be Onea, pronounced Oceania. This is because when you merge all the countries of the world together, you end up with one big ocean. The flag will be a simple white background with the outline of the world. Population-wise, we'll use data from 2021, and so Onea would have a population of 8 billion people. This makes it the most populated country in the world by a clear margin. In fact, nearly half of the entire human race would live in this single nation. The next piece of trivia is always a difficult one. What is the capital of Onea? To answer this question, we need to find the geographical center of Onea. If we do that, we find that the center of Onea is located in northern Iraq, near the Turkish and Iranian borders. So we can assume that the capital of Onea would be built here. Moving on, let's take a look at the size of Onea. As mentioned earlier, the largest country in the world is Russia, which has an area of 17 million kilometers squared. If we add all the areas of the countries of the world, we get a total of 57 million kilometers squared. Since Onea is made up of all these countries, its area would be 57 million kilometers squared, making it the largest country in the world by a large margin. For context, this is 3 times larger than the largest country in the world today. Speaking of the largest country in the world, Onea would also make up the largest contiguous landmass in the world. Currently, this title belongs to Asia, which has a land area of 44 million kilometers squared. The second largest landmass in the world is Africa, which is only 30 million kilometers squared. Let's move on to some more interesting facts about Onea. Religion. If Onea was a real country, it would be the world's most religious country. Around 84% of its population would identify as being religious. This is due to the high population of developing nations, which tend to be more religious. The most common religion in the world is Christianity, with 2.4 billion followers. However, if we consider Onea, then Islam would be the most common religion, since Muslims account for 26% of the total population. If we take a look at the life expectancy in Onea, we find that it would be 73 years, very close to the current global average of 72.4. This means that if you were born in Onea, you would live for almost 2 years longer than the current global average. And how wealthy would this country be? If Onea was a real country, it would easily be the richest in the world. With a GDP of 92 trillion US dollars, it would make up 84% of the world's total GDP. However, if we go by GDP per capita, then Onea would actually be poorer than the current poorest countries in the world. Onea's GDP per capita would be 11,500 US dollars, which is less than the GDP per capita of South Sudan, which is currently the poorest country in the world. Onea would also have the highest HDI, which stands for Human Development Index. This index takes into account factors such as education, income, and health to provide a measure of human development. Chaos HDI would be 0.787, which is higher than the current highest HDI in the world, which belongs to Norway at 0.953. Onea would also have the most billionaires in the world, with 828 billionaires living within its borders. Most of these billionaires would be from Asia, which currently has the most billionaires in the world, with 722 billionaires. Would also have the most millionaires in the world, with 19.2 million people having a net worth of 1 million or more. What about the economy of Onea? Which currency would be used? Well, Onea's currency would be the United Earth dollar, which would replace all other currencies in the world. The symbol for this currency would be UR, and 1 UER would equal 1 US dollar. The exchange rate would remain 1-to-1, meaning that 1 euro would equal 1 UER. 1 pound sterling would equal 1 UER, etc. Which language would be used in Onea? Well, that depends on where you are in the country. Currently, there are around 6,500 languages spoken around the world. However, most of these languages are mutually unintelligible, meaning that speakers of different languages cannot understand each other. We ignore these minor differences and group similar languages together. We end up with 15 language groups. So, if you were to move around Onea, you might find that different regions speak different languages. For example, the central and eastern regions of Onea, which are closer to Europe, might end up speaking a European language. Meanwhile, the western regions of Onea, which are closer to Africa and the Americas, might end up speaking an African or American language. As you can see, there will be many different languages spoken in Onea, but there would be no official language of Onea. However, in order to facilitate communication, every citizen of Onea would learn English, French, Spanish, and Mandarin to varying degrees. This would ensure that citizens of Onea could communicate with each other, regardless of where they were from. How would the government of Onea work? Well, Onea would be a federal, presidential, constitutional republic. There would be a president and a prime minister, but the president would hold most of the power. The president would be elected directly by the people and would serve a 4-year term. The prime minister, on the other hand, would be appointed by the president and would come from the majority party in Congress. The next thing we need to figure out is who would lead Onea. Who would be the president of this new country? We can do this by averaging all the ages of the current heads of state. The average age of the heads of state of all the countries in the world is 62.5 years old. So we can assume that the president of Onea would be around this age. The next question is, how would the world react to Onea? Would other countries support the idea of one global country? Well, it's difficult to say. On one hand, you have countries like North Korea and Iran, which are known for their nationalist rhetoric. They might not be too keen on giving up their sovereignty. On the other hand, you have countries like the USA and France, which have territories spread out across the globe, and might see Onea as a way to simplify their overseas territories. Ultimately, it would depend on the specific circumstances surrounding the creation of Onea. If it was done peacefully, then it's likely that most countries would accept it, But if it was done through force or coercion, then it's likely that there would be a lot of opposition. So what would the world look like if all the countries were merged into one? It would be a world without borders, without wars, and without countries. It would be a world where everyone is a citizen of the world. But whether or not this is a good thing or a bad thing is up for debate. Some people might see this as a way to create a more peaceful and prosperous world. Others might see it as a threat to national sovereignty and cultural identity. You decide. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe. And if you want to watch more videos like this, you can do so here. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.